Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Soul Survivors of Chicago Breaking the Silence show. We're very glad for you to be here if this is your first show, and if you're returning back, welcome back. In essence of Mother's Day, I thought it would be so appropriate to invite my mom, Dr. Gwendolyn Maxie-Brown, to the show today, and we're going to talk a little bit about Mother's Day grief. Process that, ask some questions, get a little insight, and just talk a little bit about how we work through these times for some of us who have lost our mothers or our loved ones, and the relationship we have with grief and how we can break the silence of the stigma of how to work through these processes when oftentimes it can be hard. So I want to welcome my mom.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So, my mom doesn't know any of the questions, everybody, so this is something that I always do. I always make sure that the questions that we talk about are really genuine and unique and so forth. So first thing I want to ask is, tell us about you. Tell us, if you could say 3 things about you that you want people to know, what would you say?
I am a very ordinary, extraordinary kind of person. Mm-hmm. I'm deeply embedded in what I do, and I'm spread a little thin. And of all the things, I love family, and I love my family the most of all the world. So I'm just average and normal. I work with people and with children, and I do my best to make a difference in the community and in their lives. And I can say honestly that I'm very proud of my children, very proud of my children. So that's what I can say.
Well, thank you. We're proud to have you as a mom. So now that we know 3 things about you, where'd you grow up, and what was that experience like, and what did it teach you?
No, you sure didn't ask or give me these questions. I grew up here in Chicago on the south side, and some of us consider it the low end now that we are branching out and live in all parts of the city now. And so my community was a very mixed community. It must have been integrated with 4 or 5 different ethnics. I'll say it like that. And we all lived together and went to school together and played together. So my childhood was spent playing outside until the street lights came on, and going to 1 of 2 grammar schools, and then moving south as I went to high school. So I didn't graduate in the community that I was first raised in. So I have some differences in terms of, meeting new people and doing different things. I was always engaged in activities, and especially during the summer. I didn't have free summers, and I didn't allow my kids to have free summers. So, we were just a part of what city life here in Chicago was like.
Yeah. That's true. And I can remember a lot of those experiences, especially with the summers and growing up back in the 80s, going outside. We didn't have the Googles, we didn't have the phones, we had none of that. We just had a bicycle, a park, somebody's house, and made games as we go. And that was part of our mental health. That was our escape to get out and kind of move away from some of the things that were happening sometimes in our homes or in our communities and so forth. But what do you do to take care of your mental health?
Well, I'm presently seeing a counselor. I go to grief counseling. I am suffering with, what am I suffering with?
I don't know. I don't think you're suffering. I think that you are working with, when it comes to sometimes feelings of anxiety that come along. Right. And all of us have experience those things from time to time. So when it comes more than often, it could be related to an anxiety disorder kind of thing.
Yes.
But you work with your anxiety.
I do. I see a professional for my anxiety per se, and I see a direct counseling and then I do other things to help my mental health in terms of just believing in God and keeping my faith renewed on a real basis, living life on life's terms. And I never thought, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to shut up, I never thought that my life would be the way it has gone. I don't think I could have written a script the way life turns out sometimes. And although it's been something I can handle, it certainly has been something that is surprising, the kind of things that you deal with on a real basis. Can I say it? Is that too general?
No, that's very honest and open. That's breaking the silence. Often, many of us have this mentality or script in our head of what our projected life will be like. But I always feel like, it's already written. And a lot of things that we're going through are preparing us for maybe a version of that or some better version of it. Mm-hmm. So therefore, not getting too leaned on what my personal feeling of what it should be like in this life. And I advise everyone else to kind of take those personal inventories and look at yourself and what you see as it relates to how you look at the world and if it matches and don't match and what you feel about that, and how that drives your energy and your motivation. Mm-hmm. So that's very honest and genuine. Thanks for sharing that. So with what you're doing is pretty much being involved, having some outlets, seeing therapy for grief. What would you advise for other people that are watching or maybe listening when it comes to taking care of yourself and your mental health? What would you advise for them to do or what you feel would work?
Validate those feelings that you have and share them. Don't hold them in and don't think that this is nothing. Because your wellness is something that you take care of, and you should do it on a regular. I am dealing with things like not validating myself sometimes, or thinking that I should not feel the way I feel, but I do, And I've had the kind of losses, and they've been recent, and they've been so traumatic and not given enough space between them that it seems like I've been impacted year after year after year. And it takes its toll. It takes its toll on being able to sleep and rest. It takes its toll on just being able to plan and come to some, worthy feelings, some options. Yeah. I've lost my husband, I lost my grandson, I've lost my mom, and these have been just since COVID. In fact, within years apart. I lost my niece. I mean, it just seems like the grief is here to stay. It's just here to stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It does feel like it is a permanent thing. And to be honest with you, it might just be. Because at the end of the day, what I've learned and what people have told me is when I was searching through the grief of the loss of my son, that I thought it was a time period where that would all stop or at least digress. And, the reality is, well, how long is he going to be dead? And so when you look at it that way, it's like, oh, I get it now. This is not time sensitive. This is a lifelong journey. And to walk with it versus letting it walk me is what I practice and try to focus and teach and talk about. So it's very important to understand that this is a lifelong journey and it has just a lot of things. I heard this saying today, actually, and it was really interesting. And it says, if you're going on a big journey, don't ask someone who has never left their home. And it's a Rumi saying of it, and I'm not going to look into it, but when you are looking for supports and people to keep in your circle, what advice would you give to people that you should have, or what characteristics should a person have that would make it a safe, comfortable relationship that you can express your feelings with? Like, what would you say they should look for in a person?
Somebody you trust. Somebody you don't just necessarily depend on, but somebody that trusts. Maybe sometimes have gone through it. Maybe sometimes you can see the wisdom in what they're saying to you, or you know that they're being genuine, or they have your best interests at heart. A lot of times people just have fillers and think they have to say something, and they don't. You really don't need fillers, and nothing really changes how you feel. You know, the feeling of change comes from inside out. So I have to work through a lot of it myself, you know. I'm dealing with this thing of not being able to cry. And while it's troubling, I haven't lost faith, you know, and we're trying to get at why in a safe zone, or in a safe understanding of what's really happening, or why. But I guess I haven't let go yet, or maybe it's denial, or maybe it's acceptance. I don't know. I've redoubled or reset some things, some options that have always been good for me, and one of them is working with children. So I returned to doing that. And I've busied myself with organizations. I've always done that. So I've just found safety nets right now to help me until I can answer the questions that I don't quite know, or I don't think anybody can really tell me, you know, because those are things that come to you. And like I said, God has been, He's been faithful. So I trust, but it's been difficult at best. It's been difficult at best.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm learning is that it also puts you in a space where you feel this is just me, and this whole feeling I have, the whole processing of my grief or loss, or how I deal with the challenge, is just like an isolated event. And although we're very unique in how we grieve, and it's always going to be different levels, it's really important to be part of groups like support groups, grief groups. And I encourage people to look for, we as Soul Survivors have one called We Are One, and it's a support group every first and third Wednesday. If you're interested, 6 p.m., and you can email us at ssofchicago.com for more information on the Zoom link. But it allows for you to feel like your grief is now seen and heard by someone. And oftentimes when you're talking to somebody about grief, you'll hear your story come out of their mouth.
That's true.
So that makes me and validates me to say it's just not me who I can't cry. Someone else is saying that, you know. And that leads to another question about grief and the body, and how grief can also, and loss, can also impact us on a physical level.
It does.
Have you ever experienced that, or what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where you just emotionally in a bad space for a while. So things like exercise, getting out, you withdraw, you go inward, and so you have to push through doing activities, even though you know they're good for you. Sometimes you just have to push through them and know that, this is not going to be the end, or this is not how it's always going to be, but it is right now. I lost weight, gained it all back. But I lost weight. And what's that?
That's our hype button. I forgot to say, we have a hype button. Anytime something is told and it's real facts, it's our hype button.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, I didn't feel like eating. People will say, don't forget to eat. And I keep saying, well, that seems like all I do. But I guess it's not. I don't know. You don't have the appetite. You don't want to cook. I mean, you go through the phases that they say are normal. I don't know what a normal is, you know. But like I said, God has been faithful, so I'm okay. I'm just trusting and believing that these things are the way they are for a reason, you know. Not necessarily just because I'm supposed to have pain, but because this is the way losing someone or having a void in your life leaves you or impacts you, so to speak. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we talk about taking care of ourselves on the mental health and in the body. Now when we look at things and we're coming up to Mother's Day and we're talking about the honoring of mothers, there are many of us who have either lost our parents or mother or our loved one who played a role model of mother in our lives. And I wanted to touch on the subject in a little bit to just talk about how we can process through that and just be able to honor ourselves and that relationship as we go through this time. Because there's many different levels I'm learning when it comes to the relationship many people have with the mother. A mother is someone who birthed you, brought you to this world. You know, they're very unique in a lot of ways. And all losses, particularly with mothers, are devastating. They have their impact. I think about our loss. We lost my grandmother and, of course, my mom's mother, going on 4 years now. And I think about what advice she would give.
Oh.
Yeah. If there was any advice that she gave that was really good, that you still lean on, what would it be and what did you learn from it?
So much. My mother believed that you should get your flowers now and not wait until, you know, you expired. So that was one thing I tried to hold up front, to honor people now in this life. My mother believed in, if you have it, pay it. If you know it, say it. If you can do it, do it. So a lot of times it's as simple as that, you know. If she had a bill, she says, well, do I have it? And I say, yeah, you have it. She says, well, pay it, you know, and there would be no feeling of any remorse about it or worry. So she was a worry-free kind of person. And, you know, I think of all the deaths, my mother's now finally, because I miss her every day, every single day. And I guess most of us do miss our moms like that. But I hold the most precious and humorous memories to my breast about her, because she was really a mess. She was a mess, and I love her for it. I hope I have that kind of humor for my kids, you know, because I'm kind of funny too. Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, I am.
Yes, and that is just it. We hold on to those things that continue to bring her spirit and her wisdom alive.
Right.
We never know, those nuggets they're giving us will sit until after they're gone. And we never know how many questions we'll have until they're gone. Like now, I think of all the questions, not just for my grandmother, but for other people who have lost. If I had a chance to ask them, this is what I would ask them. I never thought about that when they were alive. Mm-hmm. Are there any questions you would have asked, and if you would say, would be that you want to know since the loss?
I don't know if I could say that. For Jamal, I just want to know. I don't even know if I can express the words why. I still wrestle with why. And with my husband, Reggie, who just passed, I guess I still want to know, was he telling me, he was leaving? And I don't know if I can answer those right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Another thing that comes up in this process is really about healing and being able to walk this path in a healing process, because of all things, losses are devastating and they all have the uniqueness in them. And here at Soul Survivors, we honor the understanding that losses are very impactful, and we want to silence the stigma that you just continue to move forward and not, acknowledge the feelings that you have with this change. So healing is a very important thing. And I was wondering if there was anything that you feel that comforts you or is a good healing practice. And a lot of times it could be as simple as, reading our daily bread in the morning, down to journaling, or having a cup of coffee outside in the, garden. What kind of things have brought?
I think my meditations, my daily meditations, and then I go to a group where a spiritual group where we share. We read a text and then we give comments on the stories that we read, and I get to hear wisdom from other people about issues that we all go through, and I know that I'm not alone. So I guess the daily inspiration I get is from talking, where I can share with somebody who is understanding, where I am with it. And then I like to think that I have some routines that are good for me. Mm-hmm. So I join things that, and about changing my community, so that's something political that I change through community groups. I go to exercise. I change through reading on my own, and I watch Netflix. And I like to cook, so I experiment with cooking. So those are the kind of things that...
She's a good cook.
Yeah. I used to dance, but I haven't danced in a long time.
Yeah, she's a good dancer, a good stepper. Good things. Mm-hmm. Yes. Another thing that I would say as we wrap up is that I've found a lot of solace in living outside of myself and continuing the message here at Soul Survivors, and just the creation of Soul Survivors and all the things we do allows me and all the people who are around to be able to give back and to not, just suffer in silence, to advocate for the importance of mental health and our wellness, looking at those who have suffered from trauma or grief, and how we can all be together and work together with this versus feelings that we're just going to keep moving on with life. So getting involved with those community organizations, getting involved with simple things for yourself, reading a book, spending time with people who, give you some momentum to kind of feel like I can get outside of myself and still share part of me, because I still have something to share is important. And that's really one of the things we want to see, and make sure the community knows that that's important to do. Yeah. So while we wrap up, I just want to ask if there was one piece of advice you could say to anyone who's out there with grief in the next 30 seconds, what would you say?
Just try to love yourself and accept what you're going through as something that has got to happen in order for you to get through it, and not fear. I have a lot of fear about things, and maybe they're the unknown, and what's dying really like, and things like that just kind of stay with you. So just be open-minded and trust your feelings. Trust your feelings, take care of yourself.
And with that being said, I want to say thank you to my guest, my mommy, Dr. Gwendolyn Maxie-Brown. You did a wonderful job. And I want to thank everyone who came today to the show. Please come back next Thursday. We're live 6 p.m. here on CAN TV Channel 21. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you soon.
Okay.